The transport ship. Peaceful Journey moved slowly through the asteroid field. Its engines hummed quietly as it carried 23 passengers toward the mining colonies. Most passengers were asleep in their seats. The journey would take another 6 hours. Lihanna sat near the back of the passenger area. She wore simple clothes and carried only a small travel bag. Her black hair was tied back neatly. She looked like any other traveler heading to the outer worlds for work. Nothing about her seemed special or dangerous. 2 seats ahead of her, Kim Minho pretended to sleep. His breathing was steady and calm. 3 rows to her left, Choi Somin read a book about mining equipment. They looked like strangers who had never met before. The first sign of trouble came when the ship shook violently. Emergency lights began flashing red. The captain's voice came over the speakers, tight with fear. All passengers remain in your seats. We are experiencing technical difficulties. Hana did not move. She kept her hands folded in her lap and watched the other passengers start to panic. A Zilonian merchant began crying. 2 Korthak traders whispered nervously to each other. The humans on board looked scared and confused. The ship shook again. This time, everyone could hear the sound of metal hitting metal. Something had attached to their hull. Pirates, whispered an old felon woman near the front. The lights went out completely. Emergency power kicked in, casting everything in dim, red light. Then came the sound everyone feared. The hiss of cutting tools working through the airlock. Captain Grixtal was the first through the breach. He stood nearly 8 feet tall with gray skin and 4 arms. His crew of 15 Vorthak pirates followed behind him. They wore battle armor and carried energy weapons. Their yellow eyes scanned the passenger area like predators looking for prey. "Nobody move," Grixtal shouted in broken common tongue. "You are now prisoners of the Vorthak Brotherhood. Cooperate and you live. Fight and you die." Most passengers raised their hands immediately. Some were crying. Others shook with fear. The pirates moved through the cabin, pointing weapons at anyone who might cause trouble. Hana raised her hands slowly like everyone else, but she did not look afraid. Her dark eyes followed every pirate movement. She noted their weapons, their positions, and how they worked together. This information might be useful later. Zeftar, a young pirate with nervous yellow eyes, stopped beside her row. He looked at the 3 humans sitting there, Hana and 2 others who seemed unrelated to her. Humans were still new to most aliens. They had only joined galactic society 20 years ago. Most aliens saw them as weak and primitive. "You 3, Zeftar said, waving his weapon at the humans. "Move to the front." Hana stood smoothly and picked up her bag. Kim Minho and Choi Somin did the same. They walked to the front of the cabin where other passengers were being sorted into groups. Captain Grixtal studied the prisoners with calculating eyes. The Vorthak were experienced pirates. They knew which species paid good ransom money and which ones were only useful as slaves. "Zilonians and Korthak to the left," Grixtal commanded. "They have money. We can ransom them." He pointed at the humans and a few other species. "These go to the right. The mining colonies always need workers." Kolvash, an older pirate with scars across his face, supervised the separation. He had been raiding ships for 30 years. To him, this was just another easy job. The transport had no weapons and no security. The passengers were soft civilians who would not fight back. The pirates organized their prisoners. Hana remained calm. She watched how they moved and listened to their orders. Most of the crew seemed experienced, but a few of the younger ones looked nervous. That might be important later. "Search their belongings," Grixtal ordered. "Take anything valuable." The pirates began going through luggage and personal items. They found jewelry, credit chips, and expensive electronics. Everything went into large bags to be sorted later on their ship. Zeftar picked up Hana's small travel bag. It felt light in his hands. Probably nothing valuable inside. Humans rarely carried anything worth stealing. But orders were orders, so he would search it anyway. "What is your name, human?" Kolvash asked Hana. "Lihanna," she replied quietly. "Where? Were you traveling?" "Titan Colony. I was looking for work in the mines." Kolvash nodded. It was a common story. Humans often took dangerous jobs in the outer colonies because they were desperate for money. Their homeworld was poor compared to other species. "You will work in the mines," he told her. "Just not the ones you planned." Hana nodded as if she understood. She did not argue or beg. This surprised Kolvash a little. Most prisoners begged for mercy by now. The other passengers were not so calm. The Zolonian merchant offered to pay double ransom if they let him go. The felon woman promised them valuable trade information. Even some of the other humans were crying and pleading, but Hana just stood quietly with her hands behind her back. Her breathing was steady. Her expression was neutral. It was almost like she was waiting for something. "Load them onto our ship," Grixtal commanded. "The valuable ones go to the secure holding area. The workers go to the cargo bay." The pirates herded their prisoners through the airlock connecting the two ships. The Vorthak ship was larger and much more heavily armed. It smelled of oil and unwashed bodies. The walls were covered with weapons and trophies from previous raids. As they walked through the corridors, Hana memorized the layout. She counted the crew members she saw and noted where they kept their weapons. Kim Minho and Choi Somin did the same, though they were careful not to make it obvious. The pirates locked the valuable prisoners in small but comfortable cells. The workers were shoved into a large cargo bay with basic sleeping mats and a single waste facility. 20 people crowded into a space meant for storing boxes. "Food twice a day," announced a pirate guard. "Water when we remember. Cause trouble, and you get nothing." The heavy door slammed shut with a loud clang. The prisoners were alone in the dim cargo bay. Most immediately began talking about escape plans or rescue hopes. Others just sat quietly and worried about their fate. Hana found a corner and sat down with her back against the wall. She pulled a small book from her pocket and began to read. The book was about ancient Earth poetry. To anyone watching, she looked like she was trying to distract herself from their terrible situation. But Hana was not really reading. She was thinking and planning. Every few minutes, she glanced at Kim Minho and Choi Somin. They were doing the same thing, looking calm while their minds worked on the real problem. The pirates thought they had captured easy prey. They had no idea what was really sitting in their cargo bay, reading poetry and waiting for the right moment to act. Zeftar carried the stolen luggage to the sorting room deep inside the pirate ship. This was his least favorite job, but someone had to check through all the bags for hidden valuables. Captain Grixtal always said that prisoners sometimes hid their best treasures in secret pockets. The room was small and cramped, filled with tables covered in stolen goods from dozens of raids. Jewelry sparkled under the harsh lights. Credit chips were sorted into neat piles. Electronic devices waited to be sold at the next port. Zeftar opened the first few bags quickly. A Zolonian merchant had hidden expensive perfumes inside his clothes. A Korthak trader had sewn gold coins into his jacket lining, standard smuggling tricks that pirates saw every day. Then he picked up the small travel bag belonging to the human woman, Lee Hana. It was made of simple brown fabric and looked very old. The zipper stuck a little when he opened it. Inside, everything seemed normal. 3 changes of clothes, all cheap and practical. A small container of soap, a toothbrush, some basic medicine pills, a hairbrush with a few long black hairs caught in it. Zeftar almost closed the bag and moved on to the next one. Humans never carried anything valuable. Their whole species was poor and primitive. They had only discovered space travel 50 years ago, and most of them still lived on their single homeworld. But something made him look deeper. Maybe it was the way the clothes were folded so perfectly, like they had been arranged by someone with military training. Maybe it was how the bag felt heavier than it should with just these simple items inside. He lifted out all the clothes and felt around the bottom of the bag. His clawed fingers found a hidden pocket sewn into the lining. The pocket was well made and almost impossible to see. Inside was something wrapped in black cloth. Zeftar unwrapped it carefully. What he found made his hands start shaking. It was a military uniform, but not just any uniform. Zeftar had seen many different military outfits during his years of piracy. He could recognize the colors and symbols of most major species. This one was human, but it was unlike anything he had ever seen before. The fabric was deep black with silver trim. The material felt strange under his fingers, stronger than normal cloth but lighter than armor. Small patches covered the shoulders and chest, each one telling a story of battles fought in distant star systems. On the left shoulder was a patch showing a silver skull with stars in its eye sockets. Below that were the words Ghost Battalion, written in both human letters and common tongue. Zeftar's blood went cold when he read those words. Even pirates had heard of the Ghost Battalion. The rank insignia showed Lieutenant Commander. 3 silver bars with a star in the center. This woman was not just a soldier, she was an officer, a leader of other warriors. But it was the ribbons on the chest that made Zeftar's mouth go dry with fear. Battle ribbons from conflicts across 3 sectors of space: the siege of New Geneva, the defense of Europa Station, the liberation of Kepler 442b. Each ribbon represented a battle where humans had fought against impossible odds and somehow won. One ribbon in particular caught his attention. It was black with a red edge and a single gold star. Zeftar had heard his father talk about that ribbon. It was given to humans who had fought in the Battle of Crimson Nebula, the engagement that had made every alien military take humans seriously. His father had been there as a young soldier in the Hegemony Navy. He used to tell stories about that battle when he thought no one was listening. How 200 humans had held off 2,000 alien warriors for 6 straight days. How they had turned mining equipment into weapons and used the asteroid field itself as cover. They fought like demons, his father would whisper after too much drink, but smart demons. Demons who thought 3 moves ahead of everyone else. Now Zeftar was looking at a uniform that had been there, a uniform that belonged to someone who had lived through that nightmare and earned the right to wear these ribbons. He looked more closely at the name tag sewn above the right pocket. El Hana, it read in simple block letters, the same name the woman had given when asked by Kolvash. His hands were shaking so badly now that he almost dropped the uniform. This changed everything. They had not captured a civilian looking for mining work. They had captured a human military officer, a veteran of battles that had become legends throughout known space. Zeftar tried to calm himself. Maybe the uniform was stolen. Maybe this woman had found it somewhere and was just carrying it for some innocent reason. But deep down, he knew better. The uniform fit perfectly with the woman's height and build. The name matched exactly. And there was something else. A small device sewn into the collar that looked like a personal identification chip. Only active military personnel carried those chips. The young pirate looked around the sorting room as if someone might be watching him. His mind raced with terrible possibilities. If this woman really was Lieutenant Commander Lee Hanna of the Ghost Battalion, then Captain Grixtal had made the worst mistake of his criminal career. Humans were still new to galactic society, but their military reputation was growing every year. They did not have the largest fleets or the most advanced technology. What they had was something that frightened other species. They never gave up, and they learned from every mistake. Zeftar had heard the stories in spaceport bars where old soldiers gathered to drink and remember. Human ships that should have been destroyed but somehow limped back to base. Human ground forces that held positions everyone said were impossible to defend. Human officers who turned certain defeat into unlikely victory through pure stubborn determination. The Ghost Battalion was special even among human forces. They were the ones sent on missions too dangerous for regular troops. Rescue operations in hostile territory, reconnaissance behind enemy lines, strikes against targets that seemed impossible to reach. And now one of them was sitting in their cargo bay, pretending to be a helpless civilian. Zeftar carefully rewrapped the uniform and put it back in the hidden pocket. He closed the bag and set it aside with trembling hands. Then he sat down hard in the nearest chair and tried to figure out what to do next. He could tell Captain Grixtal immediately, but the captain was in a good mood after the successful raid, and he did not, like having his celebrations interrupted. Grixtal might think this was just the nervous imagination of a young pirate who had heard too many war stories. Or he could tell Kolvash first. The older pirate had military experience and would understand the significance better. But Kolvash was busy organizing the prisoners and preparing ransom demands. Maybe he should just stay quiet and hope nothing bad happened. After all, the woman seemed calm and cooperative. She had not tried to fight or escape. Maybe she would just play along until they reached a port and could ransom her like any other prisoner. But Zeftar's instincts told him this was wishful thinking. In all the stories about human military forces, one thing was always the same. They never gave up. They might wait for the right moment. They might gather information and make plans, but they never just accepted defeat. If Lieutenant Commander Lee Hanna was really who her uniform said she was, then she was not planning to spend the rest of her life as a slave in the mining colonies. She was planning something else entirely. The question was what, and how much time they had before she put her plan into action. Zeftar looked at the innocent-seeming travel bag one more time. Hidden inside that simple brown fabric was proof that they had caught something much more dangerous than they realized. Something that could destroy them all if they were not very, very careful. Zeftar found Kolvash in the ship's armory, cleaning weapons and checking ammunition supplies. The older pirate looked up when the young Vorthak entered, immediately noticing his pale skin and shaking hands. "What is wrong with you?" Kolvash asked, setting down his rifle. "You look like you have seen a ghost." "I need to show you something," Zeftar whispered, glancing around to make sure they were alone. "Something I found in the human woman's bag." Kolvash frowned. He had been expecting the usual complaints about boring work or unfair job assignments, but Zeftar's terror seemed real and urgent. "Show me," he commanded. Zeftar unwrapped the uniform with trembling claws. When Kolvash saw the Ghost Battalion patch, his scarred face went completely white. The veteran pirate had fought in 3 wars before turning to crime. He knew what those symbols meant. "Where did you find this?" Kolvash demanded, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. "Hidden in her bag. The name matches, Lee Hanna. Look at the ribbons." Kolvash studied the battle. Decorations with growing horror. His own father had served in the Hegemony Navy during humanity's expansion into known space. The old soldier had told him stories that still gave him nightmares 30 years later. "My father was at Crimson Nebula," Kolvash said slowly. "He used to wake up screaming about that battle. Said the humans fought like they were already dead and had nothing left to lose." The 2 pirates stared at the uniform in silence. Both of them were thinking the same terrible thought. They had captured someone who belonged to the most dangerous military unit in human space. "Maybe it is stolen," Zeftar suggested hopefully. "Maybe she just found it somewhere." Kolvash shook his head. "Look at the size. Look at how the name is sewn on. This uniform was made for her specifically." He pointed to small details that Zeftar had missed. "See these wear marks? This has been worn in real combat situations. And this," he touched a small device in the collar. "This is a military ID chip. Only active personnel have them." "What do we do?" Zeftar asked. Before Kolvash could answer, 3 more pirates entered the armory. Word had already started spreading through the ship that something important was happening. Pirates were naturally curious about anything that might affect their safety or profits. "What are you 2 whispering about?" asked Thexmore, a middle-aged pirate with yellow eyes and filed teeth. Kolvash made a quick decision. If this information was going to spread anyway, he wanted to control how it happened. He held up the uniform so everyone could see the patches and ribbons. "The human woman in the cargo bay is military," he announced. "Ghost Battalion, Lieutenant Commander rank." The armory went completely silent. Even the ship's background noise seemed to fade away. Every pirate in the room understood what this meant. "Ghost Battalion?" whispered Rextar, the youngest crew member. "But those are just stories." "No," said Thexmore grimly. "They are real. My cousin served on a merchant ship that got caught in a battle zone 3 years ago. He saw human forces in action." The pirates' hands clenched into fists. "Said they moved like they could see the future, always one step ahead of everyone else." Kolvash nodded. "My father told me about the Battle of Titan Station. 50 human soldiers held off 1,000 hegemony troops for 2 weeks. They turned the entire station into a maze of traps and ambush points. By the end, The humans knew every pipe and ventilation shaft better than the station's own engineers. "What about the Soul's Vengeance?" added another pirate. "That human ship fought 7 enemy vessels at once and destroyed 4 of them before jumping to hyperspace. Impossible odds, but they made it work." Rextar looked confused. "But she is just sitting in the cargo bay reading a book. She does not look dangerous." "That is what makes them so deadly," Kolvash explained. "Humans do not look dangerous until they want to be. They study everything around them. They make plans inside of plans, and when they finally act," he shuddered. "My father said they move like water finding cracks in stone. Unstoppable." The discussion was interrupted when Captain Grixtal entered the armory. The tall pirate leader had heard voices and wanted to know why his crew was gathering instead of working. "What is this meeting about?" he demanded. Kolvash hesitated for a moment, then held up the uniform. "Captain, we have a problem. The human woman is not a civilian. She is military." Grixtal examined the uniform with growing interest, rather than fear. Where his crew saw danger, he saw opportunity. A human officer, he mused. This could be very valuable. The right buyer would pay enormous sums for a live human military prisoner. "Captain," Kolvash said carefully, "maybe we should consider releasing her. Human forces do not abandon their people. If they discover we have captured one of their officers." "Let them come," Grixtal laughed. "We have faced human ships before. They are not so impressive when outnumbered." But Thexmore shook his head. "You are thinking of human merchant vessels or small patrol craft. This woman belongs to the Ghost Battalion. They do not send rescue ships. They send other Ghost Battalion soldiers." The captain's confident expression wavered slightly. He had heard rumors about special human forces that operated in small teams deep behind enemy lines. "How many humans do we have aboard?" he asked. 3 total, Zeftar replied. The officer and 2 others who seemed unrelated. "Seemed unrelated," Kolvash repeated slowly. "Captain, what if they are not unrelated? What if this was planned?" For the first time, Grixtal looked genuinely concerned. The idea that they might have walked into a trap had not occurred to him. Pirates were used to being the hunters, not the prey. "That is impossible," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Our intelligence said this was a civilian transport. No military escort, no security forces. The best human operations are the ones no one sees coming," Thexmore pointed out. "Remember the liberation of Kepler 442b? Everyone thought it was a simple prisoner exchange. Turned out to be a massive rescue operation that freed 3,000 captives." The crew exchanged nervous glances. Each of them was remembering different stories about human military operations. Stories that had seemed like exaggerations when told in spaceport bars, but now felt terrifyingly real. "What are your orders, Captain?" Kolvash asked. Grixtal thought for a long moment. His greed warred with his survival instincts. A human military officer would indeed be worth a fortune to the right buyer, but if this really was some kind of trap, they could all end up dead or in prison. Double the guards on the cargo bay, he finally decided, and monitor all 3 humans constantly. If they try anything suspicious, we will know immediately. "What about contacting potential buyers?" asked Thexmore. "Not yet. First we make sure this is really just a coincidence. If the humans make any attempt to escape or signal for help, we will reassess the situation." As the meeting broke up, Kolvash pulled Zeftar aside. "Keep watching the cargo bay monitors," he whispered. "If that woman really is Ghost Battalion, she will not stay inactive for long. They always have a plan." Zeftar nodded nervously. He was beginning to wish they had never captured the transport ship at all. Sometimes the most valuable prizes turned out to be the most dangerous ones. Meanwhile, down in the cargo bay, Hana continued reading her poetry book, but her dark eyes occasionally glanced at Kim Minho and Choi Soman. All 3 humans appeared to be ordinary prisoners trying to cope with their unfortunate situation. None of the pirates watching the monitors noticed the subtle hand signals being passed between them, or the way they were quietly studying every detail of their surroundings, or how they had already identified the locations of security cameras ventilation shafts, and structural weak points. The reputation of human military forces was built on many things: superior tactics, innovative technology, and unbreakable determination were all part of it. But perhaps the most important element was something simpler: the ability to appear harmless right up until the moment they struck. The first strange thing happened during the night shift. Security camera 7 in the cargo bay flickered and went dark for exactly 37 seconds. When it came back online, everything looked normal. The prisoners were still sleeping on their mats, including the 3 humans. Jekta, the pirate monitoring the security station, made a note in the log but did not think much of it. The ship was old, and equipment failures were common. He switched to a backup camera and continued his watch. The second incident occurred 4 hours later. The ship's food dispenser malfunctioned, producing nothing but hot water instead of the usual protein paste. This meant the prisoner feeding schedule would be delayed while someone fixed the machine. By itself, this was just another minor technical problem. But when the third incident happened, the ventilation system in Section C started making loud grinding noises. Some of the crew began to feel uneasy. "Too many coincidences," muttered Thexmore as he tried to repair the air circulation controls. "First the camera, then the food machine, now this." "Old ship, old problems," replied Rextar, but he did not sound convinced. The fourth incident made everyone nervous. During the morning crew change, 2 guards were found unconscious in the corridor outside the cargo bay. They were alive but deeply asleep, with no memory of what had happened. The cargo bay door was still locked, and all prisoners were accounted for. Captain Grixtel ordered a full search of the ship. Every room, every storage compartment, every maintenance shaft was checked twice. They found nothing unusual. No evidence of intruders, no signs of sabotage, no explanation for how 2 armed guards could be knocked unconscious without anyone seeing or hearing anything. "Maybe they fell asleep on duty," suggested one pirate. But Kolvash shook his head. "I know these guards. They have never fallen asleep during watch before. And look at them. This is not natural sleep. Someone did this to them." The crew was now openly worried. Pirates lived by their wits and their paranoia. When things started going wrong for no visible reason, it usually meant someone was hunting them. "Could it be the humans?" asked Zeftar. "Impossible," said Grixtal firmly. "They are locked in the cargo bay under constant surveillance. None of them have left that room." But even as he said it, the captain was not entirely sure. The security footage showed all 3 humans sleeping peacefully during the time when the guards were attacked. But there was something about their positioning that bothered him. They seemed to have moved around more than normal prisoners usually did. The 5th incident happened at midday and could not be ignored. The ship's AI system began playing music over the communication channels. Not just any music, human military songs from Earth. Ancient battle hymns with names like the Marines Hymn and Anchors Aweigh. The crew tried to shut off the music, but the AI would not respond to commands. Every time they thought they had stopped it, the songs would start again from a different speaker system. Soon the entire ship echoed with the sound of human voices singing about honor, duty, and never leaving a comrade behind. "This is psychological warfare," Kolvash told the captain. "Someone is trying to frighten us." "Who?" Grixtal demanded. "We are in deep space. No other ships for light years in any direction." "The humans," Kolvash said quietly. "Somehow they are doing this." The captain wanted to argue, but he could not explain the incidents any other way. The security cameras still showed all 3 humans in the cargo bay, but strange things kept happening throughout the ship. Then Jexval, a guard patrolling the lower decks, simply disappeared.
One moment he was walking down Corridor 12, and the next moment he was gone. His weapon was found neatly placed on the floor where he had vanished, along with his communication device and door keys. A full search of the ship revealed no trace
of him. It was as if he had simply stopped existing. "That is impossible," Rextar whispered. "People do not just disappear. Human special forces do this," Thexmore said grimly. "They call it ghost warfare, make the enemy think they are fighting phantoms." 2 hours later, another guard vanished, then another. Each time their equipment was left behind in a neat pile, as if someone was making a point about how easily they could be taken. The remaining crew began moving in groups. No one wanted to patrol alone anymore. The ship felt different now, full of shadows and unexpected sounds. Every corridor seemed to hold potential danger. "We need to check the humans again," Kolvash urged. "Search them, search their cell, find out how they are doing this." But when the guards opened the cargo bay door, they found all 3 humans, exactly where they should be. Lee Hana was reading her poetry book. Kim Minho was sleeping peacefully. Choi Somin was talking quietly with another prisoner about life in the mining colonies. "Strip search," ordered the guard captain. All 3 of them. The search revealed nothing. No hidden weapons, no communication devices, no tools that could explain the mysterious incidents. The humans submitted to the search without complaint, acting like confused civilians who did not understand why they were being treated roughly. "They are just prisoners," the guard reported to Grixtal. "Nothing suspicious about them at all." But the captain was no longer convinced. The timing was too perfect. Every incident had happened when the humans appeared to be innocently sleeping or reading, yet somehow his crew was disappearing one by one. "Lock down the cargo bay completely," he ordered. "Seal the ventilation shafts, post triple guards, install motion detectors everywhere. If these humans are responsible, they will not get out again." The modifications took 6 hours to complete. When they were finished, the cargo bay was like a fortress. No one could enter or leave without triggering multiple alarm systems. That night, 2 more guards disappeared. This time, the security recording showed something impossible. The guards were patrolling the corridor outside the sealed cargo bay, when the lights suddenly went out. In the darkness, there were brief sounds of struggle, then silence. When the lights came back on 30 seconds later, both guards were gone. The humans were still visible inside the locked cargo bay, apparently asleep and unaware of what had happened. "There is no way they could have done this," insisted Rextar. "Look at the recordings. They never left their room." But Kolvash was studying the footage more carefully. Something about the human sleeping positions bothered him. They had moved slightly between camera angles, but the movements seemed too precise to be natural. "These are not ordinary humans," he told the captain. "I think they are using techniques we do not understand." Grixtal was running out of crew members and running out of patience. Half his pirates had vanished without a trace. The remaining ones were terrified and close to mutiny. The ship itself seemed to be working against them. "Maybe we should just release them," suggested Zeftar. "Put them on an escape pod and let them go." "No," the captain growled. "I will not be defeated by 3 prisoners. We are pirates of the Vorthak Brotherhood. We do not surrender to anyone." But privately, Grixtal was beginning to understand that he had made a terrible mistake. The stories about human military forces were not exaggerations after all. They were warnings that he should have heeded. In the cargo bay, Lee Hana closed her poetry book and looked at her companions. Kim Minho and Choi Sumin nodded slightly. The first phase of their operation was complete. Now it was time for the second phase, the one where they stopped being invisible and started being unstoppable. The hunters had become the hunted, but they did not know it yet. They still thought they were dealing with mysterious technical problems and unexplained disappearances. They had no idea that they were actually experiencing a carefully planned military operation carried out by 3 of the most dangerous soldiers in human space. Soldiers who had trained for exactly this type of situation and who never ever left their mission incomplete. Captain Grixtal sat alone on his bridge, staring at the empty seats where his crew should have been. In the past 24 hours, he had lost 13 of his 15 pirates. Only Kolvash and Zeftar remained, and both of them looked ready to abandon ship at the first opportunity. The cargo bay was still sealed and under constant surveillance. The 3 humans were still inside, appearing as innocent and helpless as ever. But Grixtal was no longer fooled by appearances. "Captain," Kolvash said quietly, "we need to talk." The older pirate's face was pale and drawn. He had not slept in 36 hours, and his hands shook when he thought no one was watching. "What is it?" Grixtal asked. "The crew is gone. All of them. And we still have no idea how the humans are doing this. Kolvash gestured at the security monitors. Look at them. They are reading books and talking to other prisoners. How can they be responsible for what is happening? Because they are not ordinary soldiers, the captain replied grimly. They are Ghost Battalion, elite forces trained for operations like this. As if summoned by their conversation, the cargo bay door opened with a soft hiss. Both pirates spun around in alarm, weapons raised, expecting to see escaped prisoners rushing toward them. Instead, they saw Lee Hana walking calmly down the corridor. She was no longer wearing simple civilian clothes. Now she wore the black and silver uniform that had been hidden in her bag. The Ghost Battalion patches seemed to glow under the ship's harsh lighting. "Good morning, Captain Grixtal," she said politely. "I think it is time we had a proper conversation." Kolvash aimed his rifle at her, but his hands were shaking so badly that he could barely hold the weapon steady. "Stay back. How did you get out of the cargo bay?" "The same way my team has been moving around your ship for the past day," Hana replied. "Through routes you never thought to guard, using methods you never expected." Behind her, Kim Minho and Choi Soman emerged from side corridors. They also wore military gear now, not full uniforms but combat harnesses and equipment belts that had somehow been concealed in their simple luggage. "Where is my crew?" Grixtal demanded. "Safe," Hana said simply. "Unconscious, restrained, but alive. We are not murderers, Captain. We are professional soldiers with a job to complete." "What job?" Kolvash asked, though he was afraid he already knew the answer. "We were conducting a covert intelligence mission when your people intercepted our transport," Hana explained. "Our cover was blown, but our mission parameters remain unchanged. We need to reach our destination and complete our assignment." Grixtal felt a chill run down his spine. "You mean this entire capture was just an inconvenience to you?" "A temporary delay," Hana confirmed. "Though I admit your timing was unfortunate. We were hoping to maintain our civilian covers until we reached the target system." The pirate captain stared at her in disbelief. His carefully planned raid, his successful capture of valuable prisoners, his dreams of enormous ransom payments, all of it had been nothing more than a minor complication in someone else's mission. "How?" he whispered. "How did you do it?" "The security cameras never showed you leaving the cargo bay. There are many ways to move through a ship without using the main corridors," Kim Minho said with a slight smile. "Maintenance shafts, ventilation ducts, service tunnels. Your security system was designed to watch prisoners, not to stop military infiltrators." "And the equipment failures?" Kolvash asked. "The missing guards?" "Choi Somin is our technical specialist," Hana explained. "She can make any computer system do exactly what she wants it to do, including security cameras that show you what we want you to see, rather than what is actually happening." Choi Somin nodded. "Your ship's AI was particularly easy to manipulate. It had almost no security protocols protecting its core functions." Grixtal felt his last hopes crumbling. "What do you want from us?" "Several things," Hana said, checking a small device on her wrist. "First, you will release all the prisoners you captured from the transport. Second, you will provide us with a shuttlecraft so we can continue our mission. Third, you will return all stolen property to its rightful owners." "And if we refuse?" the captain asked. Hana's expression did not change, but something in her eyes became very cold. "Then we will treat this as a hostile military engagement rather than a criminal matter. Trust me, Captain, you do not want that to happen." Kolvash looked around the bridge at all the empty stations where his crewmates should have been. 13. Experienced pirates had been neutralized by 3 humans without a single shot being fired. The implications were terrifying. "What happened to the stories?" he asked desperately. "The rumors about human brutality and endless warfare? Propaganda," Hana replied simply. "Created by species who wanted to make us seem more frightening than we actually are. The truth is much simpler. We are professional soldiers who complete our missions efficiently and with minimal casualties." "But the Battle of Crimson Nebula," Zeftar whispered. 200 human defenders held off an invasion force for 6 days. while civilian evacuations were completed, Hana confirmed. Not because we enjoyed fighting, but because those civilians needed time to escape. When the last transport left the system, our forces withdrew immediately. She walked to the main command console and began inputting commands with practiced efficiency. The reputation you fear is not built on cruelty, Captain. It is built on competence. We do not seek war, but when forced to fight, we do so with a completeness that ensures the conflict ends quickly. Why are you telling us this? Grixtal asked. Because you have a choice to make, Hana replied. You can cooperate with our reasonable requests and face normal criminal justice procedures, or you can continue to resist and discover why the Ghost Battalion has never failed to complete a mission. The pirate captain looked at his remaining crew, then at the 3 humans who had systematically dismantled his entire operation without breaking a sweat. The choice was not really a choice at all. What guarantees do we have? He asked. My word as an officer of the Human Stellar Defense Corps, Hana said. Cooperate fully, and you will be turned over to civilian authorities for normal legal proceedings. Resist further, and you will face military justice as enemy combatants. Grixtal had heard enough stories about human military justice to know which option he preferred. We agree to your terms. 3 hours later, the prisoners from the original transport were being loaded onto shuttlecraft for return to their home systems. The stolen goods had been returned, and most of Grixtal's crew had been revived and secured for transport to the nearest judicial station. As the last shuttle prepared to depart, Grixtal found himself face to face with Lieutenant Commander. Hana, one final time. Why did you spare us? He asked. You could have killed us all and no one would have questioned it. Hana considered the question seriously before answering. Because mercy, when shown by the strong to the weak, is remembered longer than any victory. You will tell other pirates about what happened here. Some of them will listen and choose easier targets. Lives will be saved because we chose restraint over revenge. And the others, the ones who do not listen, will learn the same lesson you did, Hana replied. One way or another. As the shuttle disappeared into hyperspace, carrying its cargo of humbled pirates toward justice, word of the incident began spreading through the criminal networks of 3 star systems. The story grew with each telling, but the essential facts remained the same. 3 humans had been captured by experienced pirates. Within 24 hours, the pirates were prisoners, and the humans had completed their original mission. No one had been killed, but no one doubted that the outcome could have been very different if the humans had chosen violence over professionalism. The name Lieutenant Commander Hana joined the growing list of human military officers whose reputations preceded them across known space. Pirates began checking passenger manifests more carefully, looking for any sign of human military personnel before planning their raids. And in the quiet spaces between star systems, alien species continued to learn the most important lesson about humanity. They were not the savage warriors that propaganda portrayed them as. They were something far more dangerous than that. They were competent professionals who never gave up, never forgot their training, and never ever left a mission incomplete. And that reputation, built on thousands of small victories like this, one, was worth more than any fleet of warships or any arsenal of advanced weapons. The legend of human military forces was not written in blood and fire. It was written in moments like these, when strength chose mercy and competence chose restraint. And those stories, passed from species to species across the galaxy, made the name human synonymous with something that alien civilizations had rarely encountered before: reliable, professional, and utterly unstoppable determination.